And with that, Brian Higgins.
Thank you very much, Roger. I've been called many things, but never a time killer. Just so you know, any of you that are thirsty, there's a lot of beer on ice back there. I know you like beer. I like beer. First of all, let me just say, Roger was talking about the environmental community, and I would say don't ever sell yourself short. And I'll tell you, if you look at all of the major movements in America, none of them came from Washington down. They came from the streets, from communities, from parks, from college campuses, up to force Washington into positive action. You know, the first Earth Day was April 22nd, 1970. 20 million people got out from behind their couches or from in front of their televisions, on their couches, went into rivers, waterfronts, and demanded that Washington change things. The next year, 7 major environmental laws were passed in a bipartisan nature. William Ruckelshaus, who was the first EPA administrator, under a Republican pro-business president, Richard Nixon, was asked if Nixon was really a closet greenie. Was he a closet environmentalist? And Ruckelshaus said, no, he never once asked me how bad it was out there. They said, why was this fundamental change occurring in America? He says, because people demanded it. People demanded it. We are at that moment today. And I will tell you, we all learn from each other. I was a young, brand new council member in the city of Buffalo, and there was a group, Linda Schneekloth was here, one of the leading figures of a fledgling group called the Friends of the Buffalo River. They met at the Harbor Inn on Ohio Street that was later demolished by a developer who will remain unnamed. And they had a responsibility, and that was to develop a remedial action plan with no money for the Buffalo River after over 100 years of industrial dumping into that river. It was a river that was declared ecologically dead and biologically destroyed. We have just spent $100 million in the cleanup of the Buffalo River. Federal officials are now saying that the Buffalo River will be swimmable in 2 years, and the fish that are caught suitable for human consumption within the next decade. That is a tremendous turnaround. Because of a program called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. And Linda and Ken Sherman and Barry Boyer and Margaret Wooster and so many leading figures in that effort. There's Ken Sherman. I was a stranger and they took me in. But what they did, they instilled in me an appreciation for the importance of that. Linda, thank you very much. The other guy in the back of the room, Billy Noah, he's a staffer for the Buffalo City Council. I said, Billy, I represent the city, South Buffalo. We have the river, we have the lake. We need to really develop the waterfront. We don't need another master plan, we need an action plan. So Billy helped develop a plan called From Rust Belt to Green Belt with a very simple idea. And that is create good quality public access at the water's edge, first and foremost. Not development first, public access first. And the rest of the waterfront will develop. That over 30 years ago, and that 30 years ago was the last time that picture was taken of me. But that has been the template. That has been the template of waterfront development in Buffalo. So Billy, thank you for your leadership in this organization and throughout your entire history here. I represent this community, and proudly so, in the United States Congress. And we have a rare opportunity to turn a Republican-controlled House of Representatives that have destroyed this country. You know, you think about it, in your smartphone, every technology, every innovation, the internet, it wasn't Al Gore, but it was the federal government, federal research dollars developed that technology, pushed out that innovation, touchscreen technology, voice-activated personal assistant. All of those technologies were paid for by the American taxpayers. And when they were commercialized, guess what they did? They took all that technology that you paid for and went to China and made 1 billion cell phones.
That's not right.
And just this past year, They cut corporate taxes by $1.7 trillion over the next decade, which will create more debt and deficit than has ever been accumulated in the history of this country. There was once, at least rhetorically, a moral horror about passing on debt and deficit to future generations. They don't care about that anymore. It'll be one thing if those tax cuts generated the kind of economic growth that gave us revenues to pay for research, to pay for education, to pay for the environment. But it won't. There's not one credible economist in this country that believes that tax cuts pay for themselves. It's a complete waste of money. A complete waste of money. And in America, the richest country in the history of the world, that we don't have universal health care is a travesty. That will change under a Democratic majority, and it should. I voted for the Affordable Care Act. I voted for the Affordable Care Act proudly so, knowing that it wasn't a finish, but it was a start. Over 100 years, Republicans and Democrats in America had tried to reform the healthcare system and failed miserably. But the two primary objectives of healthcare reform were to increase the number of people that would have health insurance in this country and, as economists would say, bend the cost curve, slow the growth of annual healthcare costs, and achieve those two objectives. We have a lot more to do, but it is a start. But the only way we can continue that good work is with the Democratic majority. Nate McMurray. I was watching Nate McMurray long before this congressional race. As a young supervisor, 5-to-1 minority in Grand Island, here is a guy that was embracing environmental issues to create public access on Grand Island, an island, not a novel idea. Why does it take so long for that to occur in that place with such natural beauty? Lacking vision, lacking hard work, lacking commitment, until Nate McMurray showed up. Ironically, he just showed up. For years, people were trying to improve the situation at the Grand Island Bridge by reducing the tollways because it was an environmental problem, an economic problem. Nate McMurray said, we need cashless tolls, the technology is available, it will help our environment, it will help with economic development. He was told by Albany, Nate, it's a good idea, we support you, you're just going to have to wait a few years. Nate McMurray said no. We are not waiting a few years. He was committed to removing the tolls altogether, but this is an interim step. That is leadership to the people that put you in office and expect you to fight. Whoever is in Albany, whoever is in Washington, on behalf of people from that community. So Nate McMurray is running today in a race. When he started, nobody gave him any chance of winning. Nobody in this room. It wasn't possible. The affiliation was too lopsided to benefit the Republicans. And now, an internal poll, believe me as a candidate, you don't take a poll to give you bad information. You take a poll to give you good information so you know where to use your resources. An internal poll has this a dead heat. Yeah. We're trying to get the attention. We're trying to get the attention of national Democrats, but we can't wait for national Democrats. Nate was just profiled in the New York Times about the great quality of his candidacy and the fact that he's running against an indicted felon who's out on bail and is a flight risk. I'm sorry, Nate, I stole your line. And I'm just proud to be here with you in welcoming the next member of Congress from the 27th District in New York, Nate McMurray.